This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you very much, guys, for joining in. And today we're going to be talking about what exactly is risk management. Okay, thinking from the foundation of finance perspective for your FRM level 1 exam. Okay, now this discussion is not directly related to any chapter in your book, but this is a fundamental understanding of your risk management, which will help you to understand FRM curriculum in detail. Okay, the first and the foremost thing that we're going to be looking at is what exactly is risk management. But before that, we're going to be talking about what exactly is risk. Okay, risk means whatever you were expecting, okay, and there is a deviation from that expectation. Okay, let me give you a very simple example. Suppose in the exam you were expecting to solve 70% of the question. Okay, that was your expectation that this is what going to happen. But suppose in the exam you were able to solve either less than 70, say 60, 50, 55, or greater than 70, 80, 90, something like that. Okay, so that whatever you were expecting, it did not happen. There was a deviation from that expectation. Okay, now think it from an finance perspective. Suppose there is an asset A. Okay, suppose there is an asset A which you feel is going to give you a return of 10%. Now this was your expectation. Okay, now what happened is when you actually invested your money, okay, your amount of return that you got from that asset was around 8%, or for a matter of fact it was 17%. Then there is some deviation from that assets return. So whatever you were expecting, it did not happen. Now that is a risk. That is a very fundamental level of understanding of risk. Okay. Now what I want you to do is read the first two lines, the first two bullet points on the screen. Okay. And when we talk about deviation, our primary goal is to make sure that there is a deviation which is happening at the bottom level. That means you were expecting 10% return and now you're getting less than 10% return. Okay, so that is a big concern for you. Okay, that is basically losing of some or all of the original invested amount. That is a very big concern for you. Okay, now look, let us look at this line. How do you understand how much you're going to get? So in my example, I told that it's going to be 10%. Now this is based upon my historical understanding about that asset. Okay, I said that you're going to on an average attempt 70% question in the exam. Now how can you say that you're able to go for 70% of the exam question? Because in the previous mock papers or pattern exams you were able to solve around 70% questions. Okay, so the expectation is coming from your historical understanding or historical behavior. Any deviation from that expectation is a risk. Okay, now when we talk about deviation, we can name it as standard deviation. This term will again come in your books also. Okay, which tells you from the historical average where exactly are you moving. Kindly read the last two lines. Kindly read the last two lines. Okay, so this was basic understanding of risk. Now what exactly is risk management? Okay, now all the big organizations, okay, what do? They set up a team of people, okay, say for example FRM professionals, who are there to assist the organization in managing the risk that they face. Read the first line. Read the first line of the process. What does it talk about? Risk management is a process of identification, what all risk an organization might face. Okay, we're going to look at different risks now in detail. You will analyze those risks and you will see how you can reduce that risk. Okay, so you will either accept the risk or you will mitigate the risk. Now a point will come to your mind. If there is risk in something, why should we take that risk? Why do you want to go in a situation where you will face the risk? In real life, if there is risk, then only there is return. That is being highlighted. That is being highlighted in the second line. When there is a risk, there is a return. Okay, in a simple language, if you find a particular asset which is going to give you very high return, obviously the risk of that asset will also be very high. So if you want to get that high return, you will have to bear with that risk. Very simple. Now let us go to the last paragraph. Okay, suppose you are a fund manager. Who is a fund manager? Who gets money from a lot of people, combine it, pool it, and invest in the market. Okay, and he wants to quantify the amount of loss that the investment that he has done in the market might face. Okay, there can be so many different scenarios that can lead to those losses. One of them would be moral hazard. Okay, suppose you are a head of Axis Mutual Fund and you have 5-6 fund managers who are working in that mutual fund company. Now there is always a risk that any of the fund manager might be facing an issue of moral hazard. What is moral hazard? That they might not be investing in a right way, which is going to give the investor the highest amount of return. That example is called as moral hazard. Okay, so your behavior is not going to help the investors to earn a better return, is called as moral hazard. Okay, so when we talk about these kind of risks, so as a firm, as a bank, as a financial institution, we are supposed to analyze these kind of risks and try to create a method or a control so that this risk is reduced. This is your risk management. This is your risk management. In case of any queries, you can put it on chat. Okay, and we'll try to address this during the session. Let us go to the next part where we are going to be talking about each risk in detail. Okay, so operation risk, credit risk, market risk. Okay, when you work in an investment bank or a big organization, then over there you will find individual teams. So there will be one team which is only looking at operational risk. There is one team which is only going to look at liquidity risk. Okay, there is one team which is only going to look into credit risk. Likewise, these are the major risks that any organization actually faces. So we're going to talk about these risks in detail. The first risk, how do we prevent from this risk? So Kunal is asking, how do we prevent from this risk? First, we'll talk about the risk right now. In the next future session, we're going to be talking about the techniques to reduce those risks. So as of now, the focus is to understand the risk first. Okay, there are methods available like value at risk calculation. There are methods available like, for example, looking it from scenario analysis, stress testing, which a bank does to mitigate the risk. Okay, now let us start focusing on the first aspect, which is operational risk. These four lines or 4 pointers are very, very important. What is it? The operation risk happens because of the internal process, people, system, or external event. Okay, now what exactly is an operational risk? Anything that is going to disrupt the operations of the organization is called as operational risk. Now this can happen because of people, process, system, and external event. What is people? People means whenever there are, so in an organization, people are working, there can be issue with respect to fraud, there can be issue with respect to people doing some manual errors. So those kind of things can lead to losses and that can impact the operation. Second is process. If the setup of the process is not clearly defined, suppose there was a team in your bank which is supposed to pay out to clients every Saturday, okay, by looking at the account detail and the other details. Now suppose in that process you did not define to cross check the name of the client before making the payment. Your process was not clear, and because of which there was incorrect payment being done to the customer. Incorrect payment being done to the customer. Okay, I've talked about people, I've talked about process. Now we're getting into system. How can system lead to an operational risk? Suppose you're working on a computer software, okay, which your bank had purchased. Now that software which is helping you to make payments, or for example do some reporting, that system is not working, or that system crashed, okay, or suppose there was a cyber attack on your company. Now these all issues are related to systems where your company might face some operational losses. Okay, last and the foremost is the external event. Now what is external event? Suppose you're working for TCS, okay, and they have an office in Mumbai, and in Bombay there is an earthquake. Nobody is able to go to office because of devastation next for the next 2-3 days. So people will not be able to go to their office, and because of which your operations will not be able to continue running. That can have an impact on your operation, and that is your operational risk. So any natural disaster, okay, any natural disaster like floods, fire, which can impact your operation, is covered in the external event. Okay, now what I would request you is to read these 2 pointers. Sorry, these 2 pointers properly. Yes, Kunal. So when I was referring about cyber attack, phishing attacks that happens is also a part of the cyber attack. That's correct. I'll come to that logic of systemic and unsystematic risk. First, I would request you to read this entire paragraph. In the next slide, I'll be covering systematic and unsystematic risk. Okay, so we have just now talked about operational risk in detail. 4 important pointers. Whenever you go for interviews also, they will be asking you those 4 points. What is people, process, system, and external event? Okay, now let us go and see what is systematic risk and unsystematic risk. Systematic risk means anything which is happening in the economy which is going to impact you. For example, if there is an inflation that is increasing, okay, there is a pandemic situation like COVID-19, okay, which is going to impact your operation. Political instability, that means the riots happening around the area where your office is and nobody is able to come to office. Obviously these are activity which is impacting all of the participants in the market, not only you, everybody is getting impacted. Interest rate hike, inflation, these are all macroeconomic factors, and hence they are called as systematic risk because it is impacting the entire system. But what are unsystematic risks? A very simple example of that is given over here. Suppose there is a company called ABC. Okay, you are a risk manager of that company. Suddenly there is a strike from the workers. So it's a manufacturing company. Suddenly there is a strike in one of the plants of your company, and because of which your entire production is stopped. Now this strike is only going to impact you, no one else in the market. Hence it is called as unsystematic risk. There is no impact to the overall economy. It is only going to impact you. Hence it is called as unsystematic risk. So are you guys clear on systematic and unsystematic risk? We have tried to give you very simple examples so that you can understand and connect it. Okay. Now going to the second risk, credit risk. Okay. Now credit risk is very important for a bank. Why? Okay. Suppose you are a bank. I'll just give you a very simple example. Suppose you are a bank. Now what does bank does? Okay. Bank basically take money from people via deposits. Okay, saving account, fixed deposit, whatever. This becomes liability for a bank. This becomes liability for a bank. That means bank is supposed to pay back to its customer, its depositor, whenever the customer or depositor is asking for money. That is the liability side of the bank. Okay. Now what does bank do? They take the money and give out loans to people, or they will invest in the market. Okay. So this money is been given out as a loan, okay, to businesses, or else they will make investment in the market, or they will purchase bonds. Okay. In a simple manner, these are called asset side of a bank. Right. So do you guys see it in a very simple language? bank is basically a broker in between who's taking money from one side and giving it to the other side. So suppose if I'm a bank and somebody came to fix up a deposit, suppose fixed deposit for 5 years, and I've confirmed back to him that I will give you 6% return. 6% return. Now, once I have the money, I will give that loan to somebody else, suppose a businessman, and ask for 13% return. So the difference between 13% and 6%, 7% is my profit. Okay. Now, what is the credit risk? Now, what is the credit risk in this entire scenario? Okay. If suppose tomorrow the businesses are not able to pay back the money, then banks will anyhow have to return back money, but they do not have, because the asset side is not giving them the money. Okay, that is a credit risk for you. That means wherever you have given money or given loan, those people are now not in a position to pay you back. So this COVID-19 situation, a lot of people are not able to repay their loans. So because of which banks' non-performing asset has increased. Okay, what I would request you guys is to start reading the first 2 pointers. That's correct, Kunal. Counterparty fails to pay. So if I have given loan to Vijay Mallya and he is saying I do not have money, I cannot pay you back, then that is a risk for me. That is a credit risk for me. Okay, I'm assuming you guys have read the first 2 pointers. If any party to the transaction, like I have given loan to Vijay Mallya, now Vijay Mallya is not abiding. When you are saying abiding, it means he's not following the terms and conditions of the transaction. Then that is a loss for me, because he's not going to pay me back. Now there is an important point which you should remember. It is called as loss severity. That means if suppose tomorrow Vijay Mallya says I am not in a position to pay you back, I will have to see what is the loss that I'm going to face when he is not paying me back. Suppose he had taken a loan of 5,000 crore, and out of which he had already paid me 300 crores. So the rest 4,700 crore is the loss or the severity that is going to impact me, because the first 300 crore is already I have received. Okay, that component is called as the loss severity component. That is a part of the credit risk. I hope you guys are with me on this part. Can I get a quick confirmation? Kindly post it on chat if you're with me. Come on, guys. This will help me to understand if you're understanding the concept properly or not. Okay, now, chalo. Coming back to the credit risk, and I'll give you one simple example. Chalo. Suppose there is a person J, he has purchased a bond. I hope you guys are clear on bond. So bond gives you interest component, and at the end you receive a principal. Okay, so the company Zain is about to pay 5% coupon. When we say coupon, it is interest, okay, annually for 10 years. So basically Jade purchased the bond, he paid $1,000 to that company, and that company gave him a bond. Very simple. This happened at time 0 when the bond was purchased. Okay, now what happened is at the end, okay, at the end of the contract, if suppose the rating, okay, if the rating of that company, which is Zain, is reduced from A++ to B, BBB+. What does this mean? So rating agencies are an outside body who are giving rating to companies, which will help us to understand what is the credit risk of that company. If suppose that rating of that company is going down, that means the risk is increasing. Okay, what does this mean? The credit worthiness of that company is going down. What does credit worthiness means? His ability to pay back is going down. That is credit risk. Okay, so if suppose I have given out loan to someone, and that person, that customer, his credit rating is going down, that means his risk is increasing, and now there is more chance that he will not pay me the money back. That is credit risk. Okay, So we have completed operation risk, we have completed credit risk. Now we are going to move towards the third aspect, okay, which is basically market risk. Okay, now what exactly is a market risk? Suppose I purchased a stock of Hindustan Unilever, okay, and I purchased it at 100 rupees. Now today I purchased it. After few days there is some news in the market, okay, any particular news, XYZ news, because of which the Hindustan Unilever stock is going down. Now it's a risk for me because I have purchased it at 100 and now the price of that security is going down. That is a risk for me, right? That risk is called as market risk. That means any change in the value of the security, okay, because of the things which are happening in the market is going to impact you. Okay, now what all reasons can lead to this fall of price from $100? Suppose there is a news that Hindustan Unilever factory is not working properly. There is a strike, for example. Then that is an unsystematic risk that has happened within Hindustan Unilever, and because of which the price of Hindustan Unilever stock is going down. That is one reason. That is unsystematic risk can impact. Okay, there can also be systematic risk. That means if suppose tomorrow there is a high chance that India and Pakistan will go on war, the stock market will go down because there is a lot of uncertainty in the market. Okay, since the stock market is going down, your Hindustan Unilever stock will also go down because your entire market is going down. That is called a systematic risk. Okay, kindly read this part. First 3 pointers. Kindly read these first 3 pointers. Okay, now systematic risk. They have given you examples of systematic risk: political turmoil, okay, recession, terrorist attack, natural disaster. So because of which market में uncertainty बढ़ता है, जिसकी वजह से price गिरता है. Okay, and like I said previously, systematic risk means it is impacting all of them. I'll give you a very simple example on the next slide. What exactly is market risk? Suppose there is a person called Josh. He has purchased a bond of a company ABC, okay, for 10 years. So obviously he had paid $1,000 and that company ABC gave him a bond. Very simple example. Now what happened is after the purchase of the bond, because of some unnecessary reason, some extra reason, market price of that bond is going down. Market price of that bond is going down. So it was purchased at $1,000. Now it is at $980, $970. This is called as market risk. This can happen because of systematic risk. This can happen because of unsystematic risk. Okay, this is called as market risk because the price of your security is going against the direction that you wanted, and because of which you faces losses. Okay. Now over here I have not, Nivedita is asking a question with respect to hedging, right? As of now I have not considered any hedging related idea over here because I wanted to keep it very simple. In reality, if a bank knows, if an investor knows that the price of that security can go down, he can hedge the risk. Hedging of risk means protecting against that decrease of price. Okay, so investor can take instruments or take position in the market which will help him to protect against this risk, but right now I have not considered that. Okay, going to the next risk, settlement risk. Now this risk is very common risk which you also face in real life. Okay, suppose you go to a market and you go to a store and you say I want to purchase something. Okay, you have paid in the amount, but that concerned person is not giving you that goods. That is basically a settlement risk. Okay, now bank face the settlement risk every now and then because banks are entering into the transaction with so many customers. Okay, banks or financial institution. Now if suppose bank has done their part, they has made the payment or whatever that was required, but the counterparty is not doing its duty. Counterparty is not doing its duty. Okay, I'll give you a very simple example. Suppose SBI is having a transaction with JP Morgan, which is, so JP Morgan is a US bank, SBI is an Indian bank. Now in the transaction, SBI was supposed to pay 100 crores in INR, Indian rupees. Okay. Similarly, JP Morgan was supposed to pay 50 million US dollar. Now if suppose SBI paid 100 crores, but JP Morgan failed to pay their amount, that is settlement risk. Okay, that in a very simple language means I completed my part of the transaction, but you did not completed your part. That is your settlement risk. Okay, kindly read the first three pointers. Yes. So we are talking about the last day when the transaction was supposed to happen. So on that day, I paid, but I did not receive. So that is basically your settlement risk on that last day when the settlement was supposed to happen. That's correct. Okay, I hope you guys have read the pointers, the second and third pointers. Okay. Okay, kindly also read the last point. Risk of loss for either party. Okay, settlement risk means if I am supposed to pay something, okay, and I default on the amount, then settlement risk is also for the counterparty. The counterparty is also facing the risk. I am also facing the risk. Okay, because I am supposed to give something, counterparty is supposed to give something. If any one of us defaults, that's a settlement risk for the other one. Okay, that is what the last line highlights. I'll give you a very simple example of the settlement risk on the next slide. Okay, now suppose there is a person called Josh. He has entered into a futures contract. What is futures contract? I am going to purchase something in future from you. Okay, so what Josh had decided? They have decided that he is going to purchase wheat, 100 ounces of wheat for $200 per ounce. Okay, so after suppose 6 months, they were supposed to do that transaction where Josh was supposed to pay 200 rupees per ounce ke hisab se into 100, that much amount of money, and he is supposed to get some to 100 kgs or 10 kgs, whatever they have decided. Okay, now when that settlement date comes, okay, Josh feels that he doesn't have the money available and he defaults on the payment. Okay, but the wheat is already delivered and Josh is not able to pay back. That is called as settlement risk. Okay, that is called as settlement risk. Are we guys good till here? Kindly provide a confirmation. Are you guys with me on the settlement risk? These all concepts are asked in your interview. Okay, when you go for an interview of a big investment bank, they will ask you what is settlement risk, what is market risk. Okay, so now once we are done with settlement risk, we'll go to the next important risk, which is funding liquidity risk. Now what is funding liquidity risk? In a very simple language, it means there are people standing at my door and they're asking for money and I do not have money to pay back. Okay, so I am assuming that you guys are from the commerce background. So there is, in commerce, you might have heard about a term called creditor. Who is a creditor? To whom I am supposed to pay something. Now if suppose there are creditors standing outside my home and asking money and I do not have money to pay back, that situation is called as funding liquidity risk. Kindly read the first 2 points. For a bank, funding liquidity risk can happen when suppose the depositors, people who have opened up saving account, current account, fixed deposit with the bank, they are going to the bank and asking for money, and the bank is not in a position to pay them back. That is called as funding liquidity risk. That is called as funding liquidity risk. Okay, I'll show you one simple example of funding liquidity risk. Okay. Suppose Josh had purchased a bond, same example which I had given earlier, a bond for 10 years. Now at the end, the company ABC was not having money to pay back to Josh. Okay, then that is a basic liquidity risk that you are facing. Kindly read this bullet point also. As the company fails to complete its obligation because they do not have sufficient amount of capital available to pay back. Okay. In a simple language, what is funding liquidity risk? Creditors are standing outside, they're asking for money, and I do not have funds available to pay back. Okay. One more liquidity risk is related to funding liquidity risk is trading liquidity risk, which we are going to be covering right now. What is trading liquidity risk? In a very simple language, it means suppose if I have an asset available with me, I want to sell it in the market, but I am not getting any buyer for that asset, or I am not getting proper price for that asset. That is called as trading liquidity risk. You are not able to sell your asset to somebody else. That is basically trading liquidity risk. Okay. Read these 2 pointers also. Read these 2 pointers. So if suppose if you have an asset available and you are able to sell it quickly, that means there is very low trading liquidity risk. But if it is taking more and more time for you to sell your asset to somebody else, then there is high trading liquidity risk. Okay, perfect. So when you go to stock exchange and you have purchased an asset, suppose you have gone to stock exchange and you have purchased an asset, okay, and you want to sell it. So it is very easy for you to sell it on the exchange because the liquidity is very high. When we say liquidity is very high, it is possible for you. There are a lot of buyers available for you to sell to. Okay, but if the liquidity is very less, it becomes very difficult to sell. Okay, so example of exchange, the liquidity is very high. But if you look at real estate market, if you have bought a property in Bombay and you want to sell it to somebody else, it will take some 6 months, 7 months time to sell that property because the liquidity is very low. Okay, let us quickly go and look at the simple example. Okay, now there's this person who has purchased a house, okay, for $1 million. Okay, now after some time he's not able to pay EMIs because his job is not there or any other reason, and he wants to sell his house, but he's not able to find any buyer to that, not able to find any buyer for that house. That is basically a trading liquidity risk example. Now the same logic can be is applicable on bonds, on equities, or any other asset where you're not able to sell that asset. That is called as trading liquidity risk. Okay, moving on to the next important point, which is basically your investment risk. Okay, now investment risk and market risk is more or less similar. Okay, if suppose I have purchased bonds of Reliance, and today suppose Reliance bonds value goes down, or if Reliance says that they will not be able to pay me the amount back, now this is where my investment has become wrong. That is that entire logic is covered over here as an investment risk. Okay, now read the first two pointers of this concept. In case of any confusion, put it on chat. Okay, now that is the reason we say that whenever you are making any investment, you have to look at the risk involved. Okay, if there is high risk involved, then you should be getting high return. Okay, and when there is high risk there involved, then your investment can also go bad. Hence you should make sure that your investments are done in a proper way. Okay, higher the risk, higher the return that you should get. Now look at from a bank's perspective. Now bank is getting so much amount of money, so for very short term they invest their money into market. Okay, say stock market, bond market, commodities market, wherever it is available for them. Now if suppose they have invested in some asset and the value of that asset becomes zero, then entire investment becomes zero. That is an investment risk. Okay, let us go to the example. Read this part. Alan has purchased a speculative bond. Speculative bond means a bond which has a high risk. Okay, because he wanted to earn high yield. When we are saying yield, it means return. When we are saying yield, it means return. Okay, so he purchased that high risky bond, but after some time he received some coupon amount, but after some time the company is not able to pay, or the value of that security goes down to zero. That is basically where my investment has become zero, and that is an investment risk that I face. Okay, so over here we have completed investment risk in detail. The last and the important risk that we are going to be covering today is sovereign risk. Okay, sovereign means country. Okay, let's think it from an example. If suppose tomorrow Adani Group, which is a very big group into electricity, ports and all. So if suppose they want to start up a plant, or they want to establish a port in say Indonesia, and suddenly if there is civil war in that country, or suddenly if there is uncertainty in that country, then my entire investment will become zero, because I'll not be able to work properly in that country. That is happening because of political risk, that are economical risk that you face because of that country. That is called as sovereign risk. Okay, and whenever that risk increases, the treasury bond, or the bond which the government issues, the value of that bond becomes zero, or come close to very zero, because of the high risk that is there. Okay, hence whenever a big company is investing money into any particular country, they will look at the sovereign risk that they face. Now if suppose you feel that US companies, Apple is investing suppose $50 million in India. Okay, now they will look at how exactly the Indian government works, what is the rules and regulation in India, how do court work in India, justice is done. So all of this is being covered in detail. What is the political situation in India? Then only I'll make the investment. So yeah, they are looking at the sovereign risk. Okay, so kindly read the first three pointers of the slide. Okay, a strong central bank, a strong independent central bank. Like in India, you have RBI, which is independent. Okay, it is strongly covering the entire market. So if you have a strong central bank, the risk of that country is also coming down. Okay, if the elections are happening properly, the risk is very low. Okay, so that those kind of components makes up of sovereign risk. Last line, kindly read the last line. Now if the risk of our country increases, then the dollar in INR rupees, so currently suppose per dollar is 75 INR, that amount will depreciate. That means then in the future price will be $1 is equal to 100 rupees. Now it is becoming costly for you to purchase $1 because of the risk that you have in your country. Your country is getting more riskier, hence it is taking more of your amount to purchase that $1. So it can directly impact your forex amount also, the forex value also. Yes, so whenever there is tension with the border, so India China tension increasing, it increases your risk, because if tomorrow there is a war, a lot of companies who have invested in India, they will see low GDP of India, and because of which low production, low economic activity, their business will also go down. right? So these countries, these companies definitely look at how exactly the political situation is also changing in that country. Okay, I'll give you a very simple example of the sovereign risk which is there happened in Brazil, Mexico in 1960s and 1970. So these countries, Latin American countries, okay, they purchased huge amount of money. They purchased huge amount of loan, okay, for their infrastructural projects, okay, from World Bank or IMF or say for example China, right? So right now Sri Lanka has taken such a huge amount of money from China that they are not in a position to pay back. Hence, they have given 99-year lease to a port to China because they are not in a position to pay back. Now, because of this, your risk of the country increases. So over here in the slide, we can see an example of Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. So they purchase huge amount of money from international banks and international World Bank, IMF, these countries. So these people were expecting that oil prices, which they basically, or the natural resources which they sell to other countries, they will get good prices in the future and they will be in a position to repay the loan. But that did not happen. Okay, that did not happen, and because of which, so they have given you an example of Mexico. For Mexico, what happened is they were expecting, read the last thing, they were expecting future oil revenue. The money will come and they will pay that revenue to pay back the loan. But what happened is oil market crashed, and because of which his economy also crashed, and because of which they are facing problem with respect to payment, and because of which the sovereign risk increased. Okay, kindly read the last slide. Kindly read the last slide. Okay. Any questions you can post it on. Yes, Kunal. So last line, I'm just repeating the last line. So what happened is Mexico, okay, Mexico has taken a huge amount of loan from suppose IMF, and they were supposed to pay back loan in future. So they were expecting that the oil that they are extracting from their own country, they will be selling it in a future time at a higher price, and because of which they should be able to repay the loan. But what happened is that the oil revenue decreased. Okay, so oil market crashed, because of which you are not getting high prices for your oil, and because of which your economy also went down, and hence you were not able to pay the loan, hence your risk increased. All good? Now, so we are stopping out with this session today. Okay, now quick description about what we are going to be doing in the future sessions. Also, we're going to be talking about a lot of different risks. We're going to be also talking about a lot of products. Okay, but those sessions will be available for our students who are joining the batch for May 2021. Okay, so we do take live sessions like we are taking right now. There is classroom session also available for FRM and CFA. We do also sell video lectures which are available on mobile and laptop for our students. Okay, so in case you guys have any query with respect to the content which we have completed right now, or with respect to the classes or session, you can put up your questions right now. You guys can put up your questions in case you have.